A man accidentally steps into a forbidden world made entirely of women. Inside this almost sealed-off little universe, a handsome man deliberately spins a huge web of romance with sweet words and charm. The cold, elegant headmistress of the girls' school, and the young girl who worships him like a fairy tale prince. Each woman fights in her own way for ownership of the only man there. In the end, this group of lonely women all go mad for him. This film is adapted from Thomas Cullinan's novel The Beguiled. It tears open the hypocritical veil of Victorian-style female education and exposes the most primitive survival rules of human nature. This is today's film, The Beguiled. The story takes place in 1864, in Virginia during the American Civil War, in a forest so quiet it feels almost dead. A young girl named Amy carries a bamboo basket, lowering her head as she searches for mushrooms. The sound of her skirt brushing over the fallen leaves is the only sign of life in this world. But in the next second, a faint groan cuts through the silence. She looks to the side and sees a man covered in blood, his left leg mangled and torn. Union Corporal McBurney. He leans against a large tree, barely alive, with a lingering hunger for survival in his eyes. At first, a flash of terror crosses Amy's eyes, and she instinctively wants to step back. In this era of war, the Union and the Confederacy are sworn enemies. When a Southern girl encounters an injured Northern soldier, fear and rejection are the instinctive response. But very quickly, the fear in her eyes is replaced by pity. As a child raised under church teachings, the word mercy has long been carved into her bones, and it is this single moment of mercy that completely shatters the long-sealed peace of the girls' boarding school not far away. It also drags every woman in the estate into an abyss woven from desire, jealousy, and madness. At this moment, the others at the school are busy with lessons and tending the vegetable garden, and everything seems peaceful. But when Amy brings the badly wounded McBurney back to the estate, the whole school falls into a brief panic. The girls work together to carry the unconscious McBurney inside the estate. Headmistress Miss Martha wants to tell the patrol that there is a Union soldier here. At this moment, Martha is also standing to the side. She wears a plain light-colored dress, her hair neatly pinned up, her eyes gentle yet timid, looking at McBurney's pale face. A nearly invisible trace of curiosity and pity flashes through her eyes.
I gotta wash his wound. Yes, and we're gonna need to sew it up.
Inside Martha, a fierce struggle is taking place. As the headmistress of the school, her first duty is to protect every girl here, and the arrival of a Union soldier will undoubtedly bring danger to this peaceful estate. Once the Confederate soldiers discover him, every one of them could be implicated. But on the other hand, as a woman, and as someone shaped by church doctrine, she cannot simply watch a man die. Martha finally gives in. She looks at McBurney, her tone still cold, but carrying a trace of compromise.
Yes, you're right. It would be. He's never gonna make it. So we're gonna wait until he's in better shape before he's taken away. Get him inside.
At this moment, Martha's feelings are complicated. Perhaps she does not realize that her compromise comes not only from mercy, but also from a desire buried deep in her subconscious. McBurney is carried into the school's music room. Martha personally treats his wound, while Martha stands beside her handing over the tools. With the two of them working together, McBurney's wound is finally bandaged. Edwina walks out of the room and takes away the girls who have been eavesdropping at the door. They go to the sewing room to repair the damaged items. Meanwhile, inside the room, Martha is holding a towel and wiping McBurney's body. Martha's fingers are gentle and practiced, her eyes focused, but her breathing gradually grows quick. When her fingertips touch McBurney's rough, firm skin on his leg, her body stiffens slightly. A trace of panic flashes in her eyes, only to be quickly covered by calm. This scene of wiping his body contains not a single line of dialogue, yet it fully reveals the excitement and restraint inside Martha. She longs to touch him, but because of her identity and the rules around her, she can only force herself to hold back. That restraint makes the pressure inside her grow even heavier. Wanting to calm herself down, Martha comes to the basin, scoops up some clean water, and pats it onto her face. She seems to believe this can suppress the restlessness inside her heart. Night is about to fall, and Confederate soldiers are escorting a group of Union prisoners to the gate of the estate. As headmistress, Martha goes to the gate to speak with the officer. The officer warns them to be careful of any Union soldiers who may have gotten separated. But Martha says nothing about McBurney. She even makes an even bolder request.
I was wondering if you might have a few cartridges you could spare.
She tells the officer that she wants to use the pistol left by her father, saying it would make them feel much safer. The officer does not suspect anything. hands her a box of bullets, and leaves. Martha returns to the room alone and secretly locks the gun and bullets inside a cabinet. After McBurney wakes up, he quickly understands his situation. He knows he has fallen into Confederate territory, into the hands of a group of unarmed women. If he wants to survive and escape this place, he has to please them. He has a handsome face, a gentle voice, and the mature charm of a grown man. These are the very tools that can keep him alive. So he begins deliberately showing his gentleness and humility. With words and expressions, he breaks down the defenses in these women's hearts little by little. His first target is Martha. He knows Martha is the one with power in this school. As long as he gains Martha's trust, he will already be more than halfway safe. When Martha comes to see him, he gives a weak smile and speaks with sincerity.
I think I'm disrupting your place here.
Yes, indeed you are.
You don't mince words, man. You speak right up. I like that.
Martha's heart slowly begins to lower its guard against McBurney, and at this moment, the adolescent student Alicia walks in. She asks whether she can help, but Martha sees through what she is thinking and sends her away to do what she should be doing. As Alicia leaves, her eyes remain fixed straight on McBurney, and Edwina is not spared by McBurney either. After McBurney hears the students teasing Edwina, he invites Edwina in for a chat. He speaks in a flirtatious and completely undisguised way. He sees Edwina's gentleness and timidity, and also sees the longing and loneliness hidden in her eyes. He guides Edwina into talking about her own experiences, then plays the emotional card.
Why are you so interested in me?
I just reckon that you and I were both a little out of place here. I bet you're the independent sort.
These words do not affect Edwina very much, but what he says next makes her heart stir deeply.
Sorry to tell you, and I hope you don't mind me telling you, but well, in all my travels, I've never come across such a delicate beauty as yours.
After saying it, he takes Edwina's hand, hoping she will say what she truly wants.
To be taken far away from me.
Edwina has been in this school for many years. She longs for love and longs to leave this cage that has trapped her. And during the prayer meeting that very night, Alicia finds an excuse to leave. She secretly opens the door to the music room, comes to McBurney's bedside, and kisses him in secret. After saying goodnight, she hurries back to the prayer meeting, pretending nothing has happened. The nightly prayers continue as usual, but tonight, Martha decides to bring McBurney into the prayer gathering. Looking at the women before him, McBurney's gaze moves among them. Just as the atmosphere grows intense, two uninvited guests arrive outside the door, Confederate soldiers. After listening to everyone's suggestions, Martha decides to continue hiding the fact that McBurney is there. And as Martha prepares to keep dealing with the soldiers, she says this:
When I return, would you care to join me for a brandy, Corporal?
I'd like that very much, man.
McBurney's leg injury improves day by day. He can already get out of bed and walk around, strolling through the estate garden and tending the flowers and plants. His presence completely breaks the original order of the estate. It also makes the desires buried in the women's hearts grow wildly out of control. They no longer hide their attention toward McBurney. A silent contest for favor and power quietly unfolds inside this sealed-off estate. When Martha feels McBurney's leg has almost recovered and only wants him to leave the estate, Edwina goes to find him. She does not want McBurney to leave, and McBurney immediately takes advantage of the moment. After a heartfelt exchange of feelings, the two kiss. Just then, Alicia comes in to invite them to dinner. Beneath the ambiguous light and shadow, a violent undercurrent is hiding. At the dinner table, McBurney praises Alicia's apple pie as delicious. Alicia smiles sweetly and says this:
I hope you like apple pie.
Love apple pie.
As soon as she finishes speaking, Edwina says softly,
Is that my recipe, Alicia?
There is a trace of barely noticeable sarcasm and resentment in her tone. Martha sits at the head of the table. She sees through the girl's thoughts, and she also sees through McBurney's act. But she does not stop it, because she herself is also immersed in it and unable to pull free. After this beautiful night comes to an end, Edwina puts on her thin nightgown. She quietly opens the door to McBurney's room, but what falls into her sight is McBurney being intimate with Alicia. She cannot accept it. McBurney comes out and tries to explain everything. In the heat of the moment, the emotional Edwina accidentally pushes McBurney down the stairs. McBurney crashes heavily onto the floor. His left leg had not fully healed in the first place. After this fall, the wound completely tears open. Blood instantly stains his trousers red. Everyone is awakened by the noise. They carry the unconscious McBurney back to the room. Facing McBurney's severely injured leg once again, they have no choice but to amputate it. When he wakes up again and discovers that his left leg has been amputated, he completely breaks down. He looks at his missing leg, his eyes filled with despair and rage. Faced with Edwina's explanation, he cannot hear a word, and when Martha hears the noise and walks in, her tone is calm.
We saved your life. We had no choice.
You didn't have a choice, or you wanted to punish me for not going to your room.
It was an accident. She saved your
You're
life.
worse than she is. Did you plan this together? Now you have me at your beck and call.
McBurney is furious, his eyes filled with hatred. His roar, full of despair and rage, echoes through the silent room and sends a chill down the spine. In that moment, McBurney's heart becomes completely twisted. He is no longer the gentle, humble corporal who knew how to please others. He becomes violent, paranoid, and full of hatred. The girls also fall into fear. They once liked McBurney so much and longed so desperately for his attention, but now, they only feel that the man who once made their hearts race has become terrifying beyond belief. McBurney is locked inside the infirmary, but he uses Alicia's affection for him and begs her to help him do something. Meanwhile, the other women begin relying on and comforting one another, because they know that at this moment, they have become a community of survival. Only by uniting can they protect themselves. Only by uniting can they escape McBurney's threat. While everyone is discussing McBurney in the dining room, the emotionally shattered McBurney runs out holding the gun Martha had locked away. Out of control, he exposes the emotional entanglements between himself and Martha, Edwina, and Alicia. After McBurney leaves, Martha calmly arranges for Amy to pretend to go gather walnuts. Then she asks Amy to hang a blue cloth at the front gate, hoping to send a signal to the Confederate Army. But while Amy is hanging the blue cloth, McBurney runs out. Seeing Amy discovered, Martha rushes out to find them. Facing the out-of-control McBurney, Martha takes out bourbon from the cellar and begs him to spare them. Martha and Amy return to the house and go back to the others, but the furious McBurney feels that he has been deceived. He fires the gun at the lamp above them, then stares at them viciously and says this: "The next shot will be for you." McBurney returns to his room, and Edwina follows closely behind. They kiss inside the room, but facing this McBurney, now raging on the edge of danger, Martha has no choice but to take on the responsibility of protecting everyone. Everyone comes together to think of a way to get rid of McBurney. One girl suddenly says this:
The corporal loved the mushrooms we served him.
Everyone agrees with the plan. A carefully planned dinner of death is quietly prepared. Following the instructions, Amy gathers poisonous mushrooms and carefully cooks them into a dish. At dinner time, the atmosphere inside the estate becomes strange to the extreme. Everyone forces themselves to remain calm, wearing stiff smiles as they bring the plate filled with poisonous mushrooms to McBurney. McBurney is still trapped in his anger and resentment, not sensing the danger at all. He looks at the dish in front of him without the slightest suspicion. He thinks these women have simply submitted to his threats and are still trying to please him. He picks up his utensils and eats the mushrooms in large bites. As he eats, he does not forget to praise how delicious the mushrooms are. Meanwhile, everyone talks about meaningless little topics, trying to distract McBurney. Watching McBurney eat the mushrooms, the girls all breathe a sigh of relief inside, but at the same time, they are filled with guilt and unease. They lower their heads, not daring to look into McBurney's eyes. They can only silently pray that this will all end quickly. Soon, the poisonous mushrooms begin to take effect. McBurney's face gradually turns pale. He feels himself struggling to breathe. He looks at Martha and the girls, his eyes filled with shock, rage, and unwillingness. He wants to stand up, but his body no longer obeys him. Little by little, he collapses. Looking at McBurney's body and that plate of mushrooms, Edwina also realizes what has happened. McBurney is dead. The nightmare is over. A blue cloth is tied to the iron gate. The girls wrap McBurney's body in white cloth together, carry him outside the school's iron gate, and place him by the roadside. They do not hold a funeral for him, nor do they pray for him. They simply stand quietly on the porch, looking at his body from a distance. Their eyes are empty and indifferent, as if nothing has happened. To die beneath the peony flowers is still a romantic fate. Even as a ghost, McBurney ultimately dies at the hands of this group of peony flowers. He pays for his hypocrisy and selfishness with his life. And although these peony flowers preserve their own lives, they also bury their innocence and kindness with their own hands. There are no absolute good people or bad people in this film, only pitiful people distorted by their environment. The women seem fragile, yet they carry out judgment in the cruelest way. The soldier seems innocent, but in truth, He is a hunter who plays with people's hearts. What we call the Beguiled is nothing more than a tomb built from lies and rose-colored icing. When the outer clothing of civilization is torn apart, what remains is not only the ruins of morality, but also a thrilling gaze into the abyss of human nature. It warns us that in extreme environments, what is more terrifying than a beast is often repressed human nature itself.